Okay, so Victor was a great example. So for one of those pieces, so now I know how it's actually helpful for him. So there was three pieces that you talked about, which was how is it good for the environment, and explain that your perennial choices of foods for those chickens.
Yes, yeah, it is a lot. For example, the way the system works right now, there is corn, which is the main component of feed. There is soybeans, which is the second most important component because of the protein source. And then they put all kinds of other things, supplements, vitamins, and stuff that go in small amounts. In average, we're talking about 750 pounds of corn per 2,000 pounds of feed, about 600 pounds of soybean meal, which has been already processed for the protein, and then goes down into other components. What we do is, here's a field, and we remove all of that grain through machines, spend a lot of fuel, compact the soil, erode the soil in the process, till it, release a lot of gases into the atmosphere to the tillage, and on and on. Even no till, still sprays the heck out of the fields. We kill all the biological infrastructure and all of that. We kill the life of the soil. Like Michael Pollan said, putting corn in a field is just like paving it. It kills it just as much. I mean, that's to quote someone who, a lot of people read. So, but on the other hand, when we do that, that energy transformation takes a nosedive, so to speak, because suddenly this 300 bushels per acre that we call efficient system it cost us 600 bushels of energy to produce 300, just like the case of ethanol that was exposed, that it took a gallon and a half, I think, of ethanol to produce one. I mean, that was just a little example of what the equation really is. So what we said was, what if we can not only eliminate all of this waste, but redesign how a feed system would work? The first thing we did was, we took the regular feed, we bought it from local farmers, we produced it ourselves, and in fact this year we hired the local elevator, but we still made it a condition that they will source the local grain. In fact, they put in the bag locally sourced. All right. And it can be conventional, but at least we are taking one major step towards another outcome, which is you put some feed in the system, and then you put a lot of sprouting systems on those fields. So the sprouts, what happens is that not only, because the birds are outside, they are putting a lot of nitrogen on the soil. So you have to balance that nitrogen with carbon so that the bacteria would eat up the nitrogen to break down the carbon, right? So we use straw for that. Now that straw can come straight from a field where you bale the grain, you spread it as straw, you provide the carbon so that nitrogen balances out, and the grain that came in the straw sprouts, and that becomes feed. And that grain did not have to go through the whole process of wastefulness across the field. It comes from a field to another field. So that's one element of it. But the other one I know is back to my story of 5th generation chicken grower back in Guatemala. It's like, well, I didn't know that there was feed, and we grew perfectly healthy chickens. In fact, I won a prize in my second year in was 7th grade. I won a prize for the best chicken. What they didn't know is that I never fed it any feed. Yeah. It was all the stuff from our house. So anyway, bottom line is, it's sort of back here, and sometimes I kick myself for not having more hours in the day, I guess, to do more of this. But this year we were able to try all kinds of other grains that, because we are rotating them, we are able to spread them on the ground, get them wet, let them sit for 3 days, let them sprout. And then what I learned out of the University of Manitoba is that when a grain sprouts, a dry grain is like a idling energy plant. The minute you sprout it, it releases all the energy. But it releases it for a very specific purpose, to grow. But if it hasn't grown yet, by the time the chicken eats it, it's just full of it. It's an energy plant. And so in there are digestive enzymes, proteins, minerals, all kinds of things that did not exist right before it sprouted. So we know that feed is a lot better, and it skips all of the steps that makes it inefficient right now. So that's just to give you one example. But the manure and the straw and all that we put in, we have documented this, and then we will get the researchers so that we can actually publish this information. But we know that the macrobiological systems, you know, the worms and all the larger bugs that belong in the soil, actually proliferate when you have this top layer of material in there. And that the microbiology, which is the small microbes and stuff that are in there, make the sprouting system a lot more efficient. And so now that we have that, we also learn that the reason, for example, in the recent heavy rains this spring, we never had standing water in one of the fields. But if you came out and walked up to it and you stomped on the ground, you will hear this gushing noise where all the worms will suck back into the ground. So obviously the water was going into the same holes, and that's why it wasn't running out. So now let's talk about improving the ecology while producing more out of the same exact space.
So it improves the ecology by getting rid of all these inefficient uses of energy, all these inefficient, you know, basically closing all the loops, and we used one example of grain. So let's move to the third one. So how is this better for me to eat? The chickens that you grow versus the ones that are grown more conventionally.
Right. So let's go back to the foundation of health. Is health the absence of diseases, or is health the ability of your body to fight them off? So, you know, the key is we will never get rid of diseases. Our only path to good health is to eliminate the things that poison us and that makes us weaker in the presence of diseases. So with that principle in mind, any food that is representative of a healthy, naturally occurring system will make us healthier. And not only that, but when you look at the quality of these animals, they taste better, they grow, you know, just as competitively as in a factory farm. They don't destroy anything in the process. There are no antibiotics in them. We are not creating superbugs in the process. All of them. I mean, we could go on for quite a while about why this would be better for a person to be eating as compared to a conventional chicken. In fact, you put our chicken next to another one from the store, from the regular conventional system, and you start cutting it pieces. So you take the skin, you take all of this from the fat, the color of the fat, the form of the fat, the distribution of it, to the shape of the body, the elongated proportions of the body. All of that is like on a whole different animal. And so obviously when we eat, which by the way we have done for as long as we have existed, and we will have to do for as long as we exist. And the only way to really ensure that we are somehow moving to that better health condition is to ensure that our food is that way. And you have seen, this country have probably seen the extreme of what happens when you don't do that. Because we're already paying for it. Obesity, hypertension, heart disease, you know, that's an epidemic now in this country. And why do you get those things? Because of what you eat and your lifestyle. But it's primarily because of what you eat.